Ever since the Traxxas Sledge was released, I've wanted to turn it into a race truggy. I know a lot of people have thought about it. I know some people have done it, and it's finally time for me to do it in this Traxxas Sledge build series. And here's all the parts I've gathered up. I got another used donor sledge. This thing is in very good condition. Let's start off with the chassis here. It's a dark gray chassis, pretty much the same chassis that's on there, just anodized a different color. And then I got the shock towers to match. These are gray anodized shock towers. They're not the 7075 towers. I think I messed up when ordering it actually, but these are gonna work just fine. Like the look of those. And then I wanted to go and bulk up the normal areas that you would bulk up on a racing truggy, such as the rear hubs. So they offer these in aluminum, 6061. Same with the caster blocks. Those are nicely machined. They even have the TRX logo in them. I got the steering knuckles. These are actually a composite knuckle with the aluminum plate. That will make the truck more rigid and responsive. And since we're talking about suspension parts, I also got the nitride coated shock shafts, the shock pins that they have that replace the lower screws in the arms, the optional springs, and then I'm gonna replace the upper cap with these black anodized aluminum caps. That's a must in my opinion. Also in the suspension department, of course, we're gonna need adjustable turnbuckles. So I got those from Traxxas as well. The tubes turnbuckles in dark gray, of course. So the steering, just got to get some cosmetic swap out pieces. Again, the dark gray anodized tube and Ackerman plate, just for looks. I am going to have some blue parts on it still, the shock bodies. I'll keep the wheel nuts and stuff, but everything else is going to get swapped out to the dark gray color. Let's see, what else? Drivetrain. So yeah, no, wait, not the drivetrain. Sway bars. Can't forget about the sway bars, a must. And now onto the drivetrain. So I've got the CVs for the center and the rear that will replace the dog bones that they have. The front already has CV joints in it. And then for the driveline, inside the driveline, I've got the machine ring and pinion gears that they offer. And then just for the center only, I got the aluminum differential carrier. And that's pretty much everything here on the table. And then you see in the background, there is my additional parts that are going on from J Concepts. I got their reflex tires, their white rims, got a F2 body for it that's held on with Velcro. Larry from Kustom RC Graphics did my paint job on it. And then I've got a teak and brushless system to go in, and I'm gonna swap out the radio for a Futaba system. I've got a lot of work ahead of me, so I'm gonna throw this truck together and we're gonna go over once it's done. The final truck in the Epic Sledge build series is done, and I'm pretty excited with how it came out. It is a track truck, and I used to love racing A-scale, so I can't wait to see this rip some laps. So the look changed up quite a bit on this truck with the J Concept F2 body. This is held on with Velcro. I sent it out to Kustom RC Graphics for my racing paint scheme on here. I think it looks pretty awesome. They give you this big billboard plate for the front, which I cut down a little bit, like some of the racing trucks have right now. But the only other mods that I made to this body was I cut down the sides a little bit more so I can just get it as low as possible, and I think it looks pretty sick. I also have a J Concepts wing and aluminum wing buttons that I drilled out to fit the screws to help secure it. On all four corners, I went with J Concepts reflex tires on their dish wheels, and it just completes the look of it, number one. But I think this should handle really good on a track surface as well. Let's take a look at some of the changes that I made underneath the body, and we'll actually start off up front here. So I kept the stock shock bodies and cartridges and everything. I went and added the aluminum top shock caps and the nitride shock shafts. So it's a nice smooth operating shock with some extra durability here because it's got that aluminum cap. Kept the stock hinge pin plates. I probably should have went with their 7075s, but didn't do that. I also probably should have went with their 7075 shock towers, but I at least did get the gray ones. The arms are still stock. I added the sway bars to the front and the adjustable turnbuckles so I could go and adjust toe and camber for the track conditions. On the outside of the arm, I have the optional aluminum caster blocks in gunmetal and aluminum steering knuckles as well. Moving to the rear suspension, similar changes out back. Still have the stock shock bodies, nitride shafts, and aluminum shock caps. The adjustable upper turnbuckles, again, to adjust camber. the sway bar because I'm gonna go run at RC Madness, and that track is pretty smooth. Just keep the chassis roll to a minimum on this. And then on the outside of the arm, I have the aluminum rear hubs, as I showed you guys earlier. And while I was swapping out the hubs, I also installed these CV drive shafts in the rear. And the chassis is what we got to talk about next. I have their optional gunmetal anodized chassis. And as you can see, I went and removed the skids from the rear of this and countersunk as many holes as I could. So I removed the front skid actually as well, the rear portion of it, countersunk that, countersunk the rear screws, then got another B pivot block that I ground out the holes in so it will just capture the rear pins without having that skid plate in the rear. And the center is now where you can see a lot of changes have been made in comparison to stock. I actually got rid of the top stiffener bar because it's not needed in racing. I'm not going to be jumping this thing and worrying about landing or anything like that. I'm going to be going for the downside, so I don't need the upper stiffener, and I actually got rid of the extra bracing in the rear as well. So hopefully you get a little bit of flex out of the rear of this, gain some traction. Also cut off the rear of the mud guards. I didn't need those. Also changed up the battery tray a little bit, got rid of that top strap and just have some Velcro to secure the battery packs down. And let me swing this around so I can show you guys the motor mount. It's a hot racing motor mount. I had to get this because the stock motor plate didn't allow me to bolt up the Tekin motor, which I wanted to use. This is a censored brushless motor. Wanted to use this, so that's why I had to go and swap that out. And then added the center CV drive shafts. Now let's get into the electronics on this, and I went with my good Tekin racing gear. Since this is going to hit the track, I have a Tekin T360 servo that will give me plenty of torque, the T8 motor, and then the RX8 speed controller. I'm going to be running a Futaba radio with this. And then over here I have Team New Wave LiPo batteries. It's their shorty pack, they're 6300s, and so they're two 2S packs, and I just have a jumper down below. There's a little aluminum plate here that actually came with the motor mount assembly. I think it's just to help set the gear mesh or something. I don't know what exactly it was for, but I wound up putting it in the back of the battery tray so the batteries don't slide back if something ever happens. For the oils that I use in this, I will list it down in the video description below so you guys could see what setup I'm starting with. And that's my build for a track truck. Now, let's head up to RC Madness and see how it does. All right, guys, let's get a few laps in with the truck at RC Madness. I actually just drove this for a TV camera crew. There's a news channel out here doing a story on the place. So I got a couple laps in, a little under pressure, but here we go. So far, I'm really liking my build, guys. I gotta say it. It's a fun truck. Love blasting through this corner with this thing. Just ease off the throttle, over the doubles. Look at that thing fly. I'm liking this truck. This is definitely a worthy build. I think this might be my favorite out of all three trucks that I built. It rotates well. Just blast through this corner, almost full throttle. Smooth it out. Just settles right in. Do the whoops nice and easy. A little loose in the rear, but they just had a lot of rain here, so I'm like the first person driving on this track. A lot of pebbles up at the top. J Concept tires are rocking. I just need a little bit motor, a little higher of a pinion gear, and I think this thing's gotta be good to go. The Traxxas Sledge is probably my favorite build in this project series, and that's because I used to race a lot, so I really enjoy hitting the track and just driving laps, and the Sledge really impressed me with what it was capable of doing. I really think this truck handled well. It floats over the jumps, it's nice and controllable, it steers well, it rotates around the corners well, and considering the track wasn't prepped, it had some decent traction to it. The only thing I needed with this was a little bit more motor, I think, but for what I had, it was just fun laying down laps, and I think it was quite impressive as well. So if you wanted to take a Sledge and convert it to hit the track and have some fun with, I wouldn't steer you away from it. I put this project series together so you could see what you could do with Traxxas Sledge, be creative, enjoy the truck more than just being a basher monster truck. I think overall I did pretty good with these builds. The street truck was a lot of fun. It was a little low to the ground and I'm gonna go and tune it. But when I was in that parking lot, man, that thing just rips and it looks so good. And then the basher truck, that was a lot of fun too. It looks really cool with the Summit body. There was a bunch of people saying that I should pull the wing off the back of the truck. And the reason why I left it on there is because the body falls short in the back and that wing gives it a little bit of extension. When I remove it, it just looks like the truck was just cut off. But that truck handled really well and it looked good blasting through the dirt. If you haven't seen those other project videos, I'll have links in the description. I'll also have links in the video description for all the parts I used on this truck. And I want to know which build you like the most. Let me know in the comments section below.